The fiduciary era of life insurance. Evaluating these policies is a little bit difficult. Can we talk a little bit about that?
If we were doing this with hundreds of people in the audience and we asked them, what are your opinions about the life insurance arena? They would all say something similar. They would say, we're frustrated with the lack of transparency in the business.
But what you're getting isn't standardized. And there's no real way for you to put them side by side and really evaluate what is the better policy. So
here we're looking at the age of the person, and it goes from years 1 to 20. And then it shows years age 45 to age 64. And then it shows their annual premium, which it's even small for me, but I think it's about $12,000 a year. And then it shows their cash value in the policy. And then we're in the 11th year, the cash value is $116,000. And the upper right of the illustration, it says that it's based on a 5% rate of return.
Mm-hmm.
So now in the bottom part of the slide, we have the annual account detail. So here we can see every policy expense, every premium load, every cost of insurance charge, and how much the insurance company is crediting. So let's go down to that same year. You can see here's the $116,000 in the report, and here's the $116,000 in the illustration. And you can clearly see in the upper right, it says 5%. Now let's look at how much are they crediting on the $116,000 cash value. And they're crediting, it looks like $16,556. Well, that's a 14% rate of return. It's not the 5% that's listed at the top of the illustration.
How do they get away with this?
Well, right. So the state insurance departments allow for a premium call, meaning they can say, hey, Belle, you buy this policy, the premium's, it's $12,000 a year. But if you don't get this 14% rate of return, they're going to come back to you and say, guess what, Belle? Your new premium's $24,000 a year. And you're going to say, oh, how? Why? Well, if you had the research proves to you if the numbers are misleading. So let me just give you a quick example. So here, this is one of the pieces of research that we buy from Veralytic, and here are their 2 patent numbers. And you can see in this example, a company was saying we credit 4.95%. But in the column next to it, it shows that there's an undisclosed bonus every year of 4.56%. So even though the illustration claims to be run at 4.95, it's run at 9.51. Maybe they'll get 9.51, but 9.51 is a moderately aggressive rate of return, and 4.95% is a conservative rate of return. So this is a report that everyone should run in their policy or illustration before they buy it to see, is something misleading? Is there an undisclosed bonus, or is there something misleading in the illustration?
Wow, that's really interesting. And you can just see the difference there. And this is just a normal illustration. Is this one that's abnormal? Are you seeing this sort of thing a lot?
We see it sometimes, and that's why it's important to check, right? It's like going for a cancer screening. They don't find cancer in every person, but if you're the one who they find it in, you're going to have a better outcome because they found it. And this is kind of typical. An individual calls me up and says, hey, Steve, we heard that there's independent research for life insurance. And I've always purchased my life insurance from a friend, somebody I golf with, somebody from my country club. But I don't want to be, this is his exact words were, I don't want to become your friend. I want the best analysis in the marketplace. And I said, okay. And then he said, okay, we could become friends later. So let me walk you through his findings. So the research has within it every whole life, every universal life, every variable, every index policy in the country. It took 20 years to gather all of the data. And now let's walk through some of the research report. We can see here in blue that for this policy under evaluation, it's a $12 million MetLife policy. MetLife charges 17 cents per dollar of death benefit on a present value basis for all of their costs. The cost of the skyscraper, the cost of the blimp, the cost of all of the other people dying who have a policy with MetLife. And this is the patented benchmark of what every insurance company in the country charges. And the average insurance company charges 23 cents per dollar of death benefit, which means this person is saving 6 cents per dollar. And if you multiply 6 cents per dollar times $12 million, you know exactly how much they're saving in costs. Now let's look at the premium. So this is the premium of this $12 million policy. It's $260,000 a year in green. And in blue is what every other company would charge this person for $12 million of insurance. So you can see their premiums are substantially below the benchmark, which is great. Their costs are substantially below the benchmark, which is great. And now let's look at their cash value. If you give $260,000 a year and you buy a $12 million increasing face amount, MetLife's cash grows from $1 million down here in the bottom left at the time of review to $16 million in the future. The same $260,000 paid to everyone else, you will have no cash in 35 years. Why? Because the costs are higher and the costs eat up all of the cash. So now you know how to evaluate, you know more about how to evaluate a life insurance policy than most insurance agents, Belle. And now what we're going to do is we're going to review another policy on the same insured. So now we can quickly see, why is New York Life charging the client 32 cents per dollar of death benefit if going forward, if MetLife only needs 17 cents? So it's not that New York Life's a bad company. They're a great company. They're the company you keep, except at this age and this health class, because they're simply not competitive. MetLife charges 17 cents per dollar going forward. New York Life charges 32 cents, substantially more than the benchmark. And this is a single premium policy that they need to keep $375,000 of cash in the policy to keep the $1.085 million policy in force. Yet you can see in blue, everyone else would only charge $275,000. And if you beat the benchmark by the same proportion that you beat it by here, which you can buy the same policy with $175,000 and put $200,000 back in your trust or back in your pocket, as long as it's not a step transaction. And now you can evaluate, like, what did we do? We compared two policies to the life insurance industry benchmarks, just like you would do for every other asset class. It took us 5 minutes. We saved the client a bundle on one policy, and on the other policy, they have the good housekeeping seal of approval that the policy is excellent. An RIA calls us up and says, hey, we have a client, and an insurance agent is pitching them on a concept. We can't tell if it works or not. Do you have any tools that can help us determine that? And I said, sure. Tell me about what's being presented. So we have a male age 42, they're preferred, and they don't smoke. And they're going to buy $10 million of life insurance. The policy type is indexed universal life. And what they're going to do is they're going to borrow $569,000 a year from a bank for 10 years. They're going to put that money into an insurance policy. And at age 65, when the cash value is $14.6 million, they're going to pay back the $14.6 million loan that they have at the bank. And they're going to have a $14.6 million loan on their life insurance policy. And then every year after age 65, they can take out $556,000 a year from the policy. So now let's just review the illustration, Belle. So on the left side, we see the $569,000 a year of premium that's being borrowed from the bank. And on the right side, we see the death benefit is $10 million. And in the 20th year, even though it's blocked off, it's $13 million. And we can see over here, these are the two funds that the person is investing in, the US Pacesetter point-to-point and the Balanced Trend point-to-point. And the policy has a floor of 0, meaning if those funds go down more than 0, below 0, they stop at 0. And the illustration is run at 6.44%. So now on the next page, we see the $14.6 million loan from the policy and the $556,000 additional loans each year. And on the right side, we see the death benefit falls from 18 million to 3.9 million. And now the person's 81 years old. And on the next page, it shows the death benefit grows from 4 million to 35 million at age 100. And on the next page, it shows that by age 120, the policy grows to $314 million. And what the agent was saying to the client, this is really conservative, because if it doesn't last to 120, it'll last to 105, and you've been dead for 10 years anyway, right? So what we did was we go to a company called the Ethical Edge, and they have a product called LISA, Life Insurance Sustainability Analytics. And what they show here is, here's the cash flow into the policy, the $560,000 a year, excuse me. And here's the series of loans in blue from the policy. Nothing amazing here. And then they show here in green, this is the cash value of the policy each year. In blue is the death benefit. And the white between them is the amount at risk. How much risk is the insurance company on for? So Belle, you've been asking me a lot of questions, so it's my turn to ask you one. This insurance illustration runs to age 120. 6.44% seems kind of conservative. What do you think the odds are that this runs to age 100?
You know, after talking to you, I feel like I can't believe anything that I see at this point.
Okay, that's fair. But, you know, when the first time I saw this technology, I got the answer wrong. So here's the answer. It goes to age 100 16% of the time.
Wow.
84% of the time it doesn't make it. And here you can see each year in red, you see the odds that year of a failure. So this individual has a life expectancy to age 88. The first failure occurs at age 65, when most of the people who buy are alive. And half the failures occur by age 69, when most of these people are going to be alive.
And 65 was when he was going to start taking money out too, right?
Yes, exactly.
Is that one? Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the question becomes, how many of your clients own insurance? And we can find out now that it's going to blow up. Or how many are going to buy insurance? We can protect clients with this. So now, I think on the next slide, we show what happens if we stop all of the loans after the first loan. So the $560,000 a year they're not going to take out. And we've increased the probability of success to 54%. Still not good enough, but it shows you how we can make improvements sometimes with some policies, and other times we're never going to get it to work.
So that would be, let's say the person had already purchased this and had already been paid in, and they say, okay, so what do we do? And you can run an illustration and say, well, if you don't take the money out like we had planned, this is what happens. If you sell it, this is what you would get for it. Or, you can kind of do an evaluation of what's the next step, even if they've already purchased it. So there's value here, even if they already own it.
Right. So we might tell them, you got to get out of this. There's no way it can succeed. Or we might tell them, you can change the mix of the two funds that you have, 50, and then maybe we can increase the odds. Or maybe we'll reduce the death benefit from 14 million to 12 million. And then with each of those minor changes, we can get to a high chance of success. And let me just, this is really interesting. This shows how much is the loan on the policy at age 95? $133 million. So if this thing falls apart and there's no death benefit, how are they paying this $133 million loan back? Look what a hero you can be for your client with the right data, with the right tools, with the right research. And I know I said we provide this to fiduciaries at no cost for Veralytic. For the Monte Carlo Sims, the Monte Carlo company, they charge $500. They bill directly, and we help interpret it.
So
Okay.
here's the compliance slide that everybody loves to read
Right.
and everybody is very familiar with.
Right.